I would like to take you on a journey. In many ways, it's a personal journey. And it started with a question. What does it take to save a species? A species that has declined from hundreds of thousands a century ago to only 6,500 today. A species that has been persecuted as vermin and driven to the edge of extinction. A species that is still under huge amount of threat today, not only from a loss of land, but also from snaring, roadkills, and disease. I am, of course, talking about the incredible painted dog, and I had the absolute privilege of spending 7 years living with them, studying them, photographing them, and really understanding their behaviors in Mana Pools, Zimbabwe, before I started my career in conservation. I think that's me. I think if any of you have ever seen them in the wild, I think you will agree with me that they really are Africa's most enigmatic creature. A creature that is, as Paul said, the most efficient predator, with over 80% of their hunts ending in kills. There they go. A creature that is led by an alpha female who is the general, the decision maker, and gentle mother. A creature that lives in close-knit packs, takes care of its pups, and is tied by a bond that I can only describe as love. And I certainly fell in love with them. And this is why I've made it my passion for the rest of my life to keep them with us. So what does it take to save a species? Peter Blinston, who many of you know, my late wife, Diane Skinner, and myself asked that question. What does it take to save a species, not just in one area, but across the whole of Africa? Dyer did a huge deep dive, consulting with every wild dog conservationist, and came up, working with WCN, who are a major part of this, came up with a theory of change that had 3 prongs to its strategy. First, and this is the irony, we know what works. We know what conservations can actually make a difference. Peter Blinston told me that when he started working in Wangi, he barely saw a wild dog. I was literally there this time last week, and it was all I could do to stop myself tripping over them. It's an exaggeration, of course. But their dedication to the conservation, their applied 30 years of learning in anti-poaching, in community outreach and education, in rehabilitation, tracking, understanding them, and research, has had an incredible impact. Can you imagine if there was a PDC wherever wild dogs exist? We want to bring best practice conservation interventions into every area where there are wild dogs. That's jealous. The second thing is they need more land. They used to be ubiquitous across the whole of Africa, but now they are just in a small few pockets. We want to reintroduce wild dogs into areas where they can live safely, where they can play a vital part in the ecosystem, and can live harmoniously and coexist with the communities that live around them. And the third is collaboration. We need, many conservationists, as it's been said to before, work in isolation. We want to create initiatives, bringing together really strong partners, and for the benefit of painted dogs across the whole of Africa. And I'm delighted to say that in many ways, because of many of you here, this is no longer a theory of change, but something that we are putting into practice. Over the last few years that we've actually been in existence, we have kick-started 7 wild dog conservation projects across Africa, in the east, the south, and the west. There are no dogs in the north, yet. To give a couple of examples, in Senegal are the last remaining wild dogs in West Africa. Maybe only 3 or 4, perhaps 5 packs. We have been funding the Zoological Society of London to work in an area called Near Kolokoba, which is incredibly and challenging to work, in order to find out what threats they're facing. These amazing dogs are incredibly elusive, but through camera trapping and so forth, they have actually worked out snaring is a big issue and roadkills. We are now going to fund them to actually implement an action plan to keep the dogs there. In Zambia, we are working in the Lower Zambezi. Many of you might have heard about the Jeki Pack. It's famous for hunting buffalo. Yeah. The population in Lower Zambezi has amazingly gone extinct 3 times in the last 20 years. We are funding Conservation Lower Zambezi to understand why, because no one knows why, and keep them from vanishing again. As soon as I get back to Africa, I'm heading... Oh, let me show you some pictures of this amazing pack. They're pretty cool. I forgot to press the button. As soon as I get back to Africa, I'm heading to Tanzania, to an amazing park called the Selous Nyeri National Parks. It's 2 parks, used to be 1. There is estimated to be 1,000 painted dogs in just that park alone. That's 15% of the entire remaining population. Yet incredibly, there is no focused painted dog conservation program going on there. So what we are going to be doing is working with the Frankfurt Zoological Society to create an action plan to actually protect them, and hopefully we can raise the funds we need to help them implement it. Oh, some dogs. But I have to level with you guys, right? Okay, we did hit a snag, yeah? For those who know Tate from Dynasties, that's her, yeah. So, as Peter Blinston and David Kavawaga would actually testify to, wild dogs are an incredibly difficult species to work with. They need specific conservation skills that are actually almost unique to them. The problem that we've been facing is that when we go to areas and want to help them kickstart a wild dog project, we cannot find the people with the necessary skills. I am a former fund manager, and to me, return on investment is everything, and I don't like wasting donors' money. So what we are doing is an initiative led by the Painted Wolf Foundation in partnership with the Painted Dog Conservation Fund and the Zambian Carnival Project to create the first Painted Dog Conservation Leadership Program, which will benefit conservationists across the whole of Africa. Critically, it will be funded by the Painted Dog Fund. What this means is it is not one of those coalitions and collaborations which are an aspiration. They are actually something that has adequate funding and has also got a mandate to deliver. At its core will be a leadership center that we are currently building in South Luangwa in Zambia. We will be able to put on a course we'll be able to create 20 wild dog conservationists a year. That is 100 over 5 years. They will become a connected army of individuals, clever ecologists working to save the painted dog. It is the first of its kind. But we will finally put this beleaguered mutt on the top table of conservation, right? And it will be African conservationists that do it. But with this strategy, we hope to double the number of painted dogs over the next 30 years. This is what saving a species is about. This is what the Painted Dog Fund is about. But we are not alone. Being part of this incredible WCN network brings the dogs benefits that far exceed anything I can imagine coming from anywhere else. In addition, we can lean on, as the new fund, on the experience of the Lion Fund and the Pangolin Fund and the other wildlife funds that WCN runs. In addition, lots of additions, we have amazing partners to fund who are doing brilliant work in the areas that really need wild dog conservation work done. Without them, it cannot succeed. And I have to mention my advisory team, who have a collective 100 years of conservation experience for wild dogs between them. I can truly say that I am standing on the shoulders of giants. But I have to add that none of this would be possible without you. And for that, because of my love for this incredible species, I can honestly say that my gratitude is unfathomable. And for those of you who have not joined this journey, I would ask you to join these crazy people who actually love the dog. Yeah. Become part of this journey. Become part of the pack. And together, you, me, and the conservationists in the field can secure the future of the painted dog. Thank you.